Hey everybody, so I am making a video and I haven't done that in a while. And I know that I kept saying that I would get better at it, but it's just not my jam. But anyways, I am making this video because I am angry. And I am angry because, I have been on T for 4 months as of tomorrow, and I'm basically in the part of it where you feel like you're the Hulk and you just want to smash everything because things are irritating. And I'm having a hard time processing the way that feels because, you know, wanting to smash Hulk everything is not productive, and I don't have time for that. And I'm instinctually a person who tends to have a short temper, and somewhere along the way, I lost my temper, and I was really, really happy about that. And then all of a sudden, um, it is back, and it's annoying. And then the fact that I feel like I want to be the Hulk, smashing everything apart, um, creates anxiety. And then all of a sudden, before you know it, I'm this like raging, anxious person who just wants to crawl under a rock and can't because I have things to do. And I think I've been experiencing this for like a week now, and it's not really something people talk about. And I remember when I went to the doctor to talk about starting hormones, I was like, hey, is this a thing? Like, how is this going to affect me? What am I going to be like? And they don't really know because people, it depends on the person, and everyone's reaction is a little bit different. And even though we all kind of experience the same things, like, it's not always the same. And yeah, so I've reached out a lot over the past week, and I'm like, when is the rage gonna end? And a lot of people have assured me that it does get better. Um, but basically, my options are to wait it out or just start working out a bunch. Because the therapist that I'm seeing, he is hilarious, and he's like, testosterone is a very active hormone, and that's why a lot of guys tend to be pretty physical because they need to be, because testosterone kind of makes you crazy and very physical. And so I guess I'm gonna get back on that bandwagon. But anyways, I also want to take a minute to talk about the fact that when you are trans, it is very important to date somebody who understands you. And I recently tried to date somebody, and they were like, "Oh, it doesn't matter that you're trans. Like, it doesn't make any difference to me." But the truth is that our transitions affect the people around us, whether they like it or not. And even though they think that it's our life, which it is, um, like they still have to deal with it, and they still have to tell people, and they still have to, kind of shift their thinking and educate themselves a little bit. And I don't think people realize like what goes into that. Um, like my parents, they're like, oh, like this is you, like this is what you're doing, and they don't understand that like they're gonna have to tell the family, and like they're gonna have to start addressing me differently. And I changed my name a few weeks ago, and I um, sent in my gender marker paperwork the other day, so I'm waiting for that to get back. And then like I am in the process of scheduling top surgery, hopefully for the end of December, and they can't even use the right pronouns. So I'm like, what's gonna happen when you have to deal with the fact that like that person literally doesn't exist anymore physically and mentally? Um, so I don't really know how to make that better for the people we have to deal with. Um, but it kind of just comes down to the fact that I would like to get back to society. And um, there's been a couple interesting conversations happening lately. Um, and a friend of mine, we were talking about like, you know, what happens when you try to transition when you're a teenager and like how stressful that is and what that's even like. And so we're kind of looking to hear from teenage trans people to kind of tell us like how they navigate through that. Um, so if you are a teenage trans person and you happen to come across this video, please share. Also, um, I made a new friend, and uh, it kind of made me realize how lucky I am to live somewhere where I get to transition pretty quickly. Um, it's been about 6 months altogether, and I've been medically transitioning for 4, and now I get to have top surgery soon, hopefully. Which, by the way, is kind of ridiculous. Like, I have the benefit of having been in therapy for a really long time already, but now I have to go see this guy here because my therapist lives out of state, and he's supposed to be a gender specialist, but he doesn't even know the process of like name change or anything, and he's only been practicing for 3 years. And this guy is in charge of writing me a letter that determines what I get to do with my body. And that is really frustrating because I'm like, you don't even know me. Like, so why do you get to say so? And like, we're meeting for like 3 sessions, which I understand is lucky because I know that there's a lot of therapists out there who require a lot more than that. And so I'm not complaining mostly. Um, but a little of me is angry that like, in order for me to prove that this is medically necessary, I have to go to this special guy in order for insurance to cover it because otherwise it's not medically necessary. So the medical system, man, like let me tell you. Um, and I'm also working on this project with my photography friend about abortion, which is incredibly brave of her because the cultural stigma around that is insane. But I have experienced that, and you know, and in experiencing that personally, she and I happened to have a conversation about like what it's like for people to need abortion access as trans people, like who are in the middle of transitioning. And when I was going through it, it was like before transitioning, like way before I even realized that I was a trans person. And so you know, like how much more devastating would that have been had it been in the middle of transitioning? So, I guess if you feel like being brave enough to share your story with me, I would really appreciate that. If you happen to have found yourself in that situation and you come across this video, because, you know, trans people have a hard enough time with healthcare access anyways, and I feel like when we are transitioning and then all of a sudden, like with insurance, you know, like they are so weird about covering things anyways just for us to like transition in the first place that like transitioning and then having to deal with issues of another gender, um, you know, like how much more terrible could they possibly be? And I'm very curious about that. So it's kind of what's happening. Those are all my rants about being trans this week. I haven't made a video in a while, and I should. And I don't understand why it's so hard for me to do that. But I'm also kind of getting back to working on this documentary project that kind of started this whole thing for me. And I'm working on creating another project for gender affirming culture. Um, I'll say that for now because it's not, it's just skeletons so far. Um, so I'm really excited because I feel like I'm ready to like get back into being a good voice for the trans community. And my ex, like, he passes all the time, so he doesn't feel the need to correct people when they do misgender him. And he was like at work and he's like, like my boss's mom is like calling me the wrong thing. Like, do I correct her? And I'm like, of course you do. And he's like, yeah, but I'm never really gonna see her. And that's not really what it's about. Like, if people are calling you the wrong thing, or like you're dealing with people who aren't being respectful about you, like you should say something because the next person they have to deal with who is trans, like they're gonna be the same way to them. So like we're kind of setting the bar, you know, for like how trans people should be treated. And so like I feel like we kind of owe it to our community to kind of like say what is right and what's wrong and like how we should be treated, you know? And I get that that's hard because like just walking outside and being a part of society, like, man, I like can't even do it half the time myself. So, um, correcting people is awkward. And, like sometimes I don't want to deal with it either, but I would rather tell them and at least plant that seed of like, hey, you should be more mindful because you could be wrong, like your assumption about somebody could be incorrect. And then like they might consider it next time. Um, I feel like I just threw like a whole lot out there really quickly and all at one time. So I think I'm gonna wrap this video up. And yeah, so I think I'm gonna make it a challenge to myself to make at least one of these every other week. And we'll see how well that goes. But in challenging myself to make these videos and talking about my experience as it's happening, I'm going to challenge those of you who come across these videos to kind of reach out and like challenge yourselves a little bit to like be vulnerable and share your story. Because I would like to hear it. And I think that the more we talk about our experience, the more real it becomes. And I just broke up with my girlfriend yesterday, and she was like talking to me about how um, the topic of transgender was a joke in her family. And, like up until she decided that she fell in love with the trans man, and then it wasn't a joke anymore, like blows my mind because I'm like, like, so now because you know somebody personally, like this isn't funny because now it's attached to a person who has a life who is a part of the human race, right? But like at the same time, like there are people who you don't know who are dealing with these things, so like it should never be a joke. And so I just feel like the more that we talk about it and the more open and raw that we become about it, the more people will realize that like we are people and it's not fucking funny. Like we literally have to go against everything that we've ever been taught. Like I have 25 years of female conditioning, like to sort through to figure out like what kind of guy I want to be and like what I'm gonna do with that, like and how to do things that make me pass, right? So like it's not and then just like the physical amount of issues that you have to deal with like every day, just like looking in the mirror and looking at your body and like yet again I have to draw another self-portrait for school. Like how many times is the school gonna make me look at my face when I don't want to, And like all of the feelings that you have to deal with and like how it's different, estrogen makes you feel different than testosterone does. And when you've experienced both sides of that, like it just makes you a more valuable human because you can create this connection between everybody because you now know how everybody like feels just on like a hormone level. So, yeah, we should start talking about this and I'm really gonna end this video now. But thanks for watching and I hope you decide to challenge yourself with me.